As Arsenal fans, do we have to face up to the reality that our season is already over? It may only be early January, but out of the League Cup and the FA Cup, probably our best two avenues to silverware this season. Let's face it, the Premier League is really difficult to win, and we've never won the Champions League. So, with us being 5 points behind Liverpool, who are resurgent after a really bad season last season, a total transformation, Man City coming back, having won the World Club Cup and looking at their best again. Is there any chance that we can hope that they will slip up somewhere, that we will catch them? We do have a home game against Liverpool. Is there any chance we could win that? The place we have to start, really, the key problem at Arsenal is that we're just not scoring goals. If you haven't noticed that and you've been watching the last 7 games, then you need to check your prescription. Are we missing that killer instinct in front of goal? 100% yes. No question about it whatsoever. But what is the solution to it? Well, the obvious answer that everyone will give you, and that includes some of the old heroes of Arsenal like Ian Wright and Paul Merson, is that we need a striker. Do I think that if we went out and signed a world-class striker and put him up front that we would do better? Yes, I do. But that overlooks something. What it overlooks is that we didn't have a leading striker last season and we still scored more goals than we have in our Premier League history. More goals than the Invincible season. Goal scoring was not our problem last season. Last season was ruined by defensive frailty. So last season, the goals we scored were shared across the team. And I have seen people recently saying that that's a riskier strategy. If you spread the goals out across the team rather than having them all in one player, that you stand a greater chance of it going wrong. I don't really get that. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It would be the definition of hedging your bets to have all the goals being contributed across the pitch. We had more attacking flair last season, but we had the attacking flair and were compromised at the back. Trying to fix one, we might have over-addressed the issue. But the real issue here isn't that one person isn't scoring. None of them are scoring. There's something else, I think, that fixes this better than going out and buying a striker, because one of the problems with going out and signing a striker is we don't have the money. Let's be honest about that. We don't seem to have the money. Why don't we have the money? We bought Declan Rice. And I'm glad we bought Declan Rice. And in the context of last season, where free scoring, attacking play was not a problem, what we lacked was that defensive midfield capability, and we addressed that. We had some frailty in the back four. We addressed that with Jurriën Timber. Kai Havertz was a bit of an anomaly, but he was destined to play in midfield or Raumdeuter or whatever you want to say. We didn't address striker because it wasn't a priority, because we'd scored more goals than we ever had before. So now that we're not scoring, it seems like the obvious thing to do is go out and buy a striker, but I don't know who you drop. I can see a world in which Gabriel Jesus is a sort of Bergkamp figure in the team, and you had one striker ahead of him. It would change. Our formation would have to change a little bit, but I could see it working, and it would certainly be good if we had an option. The biggest thing I will agree with is that we need a striker. We can all agree on that. Let's start from there. Not necessarily because he would be a starting striker, but somebody to give us an option off the bench, which Eddie Nketiah is not doing. I have all the time in the world for Eddie Nketiah. I wish him well. But I think we've found his ceiling. He is not the player to deliver a Premier League title at Arsenal. And unfortunately, that's what we're going for. So nothing short of that is going to be good enough. Yes, he's young, but he's a year older than Erling Haaland and he's only a year younger than Mbappe. By now, I don't think it's unreasonable for us to have expected to see more of him. He said himself in the past, if you give me a run of games and I don't score, that's on me. We've done that several times now. It's baffling to me that we are shutting the door on selling Eddie Nketiah, because right now, of all the strikers we're linked with, are a little bit out of our price range. But if we can get decent money for Eddie, maybe we can offset that. And then a Victor Boniface or a Guirassy, that kind of player is definitely an upgrade in Eddie Nketiah. There isn't the pressure of Erasmus Højlund, where you're the only person being brought in to get goals. And on that point, he cost Man United 75 million. These players are not cheap. They're not going to be cheap. Arteta's even talked about it. He's even said it's unlikely that we're going to get a striker. They're just very difficult to sign. And you're not getting one on loan. I mean, I know it's been done. Weghorst, João Felix. But I don't think that's the way to go for Arsenal, to disrupt the squad. What I actually think is, and I'm going to come up with a solution here, or address what I hope is a solution, because I think it's better to light a candle than curse the dark. And I think we all need to be a lot more positive. Sean put this brilliantly in a comment where he said, in response to the poll that I'm doing, which is, do you think our season's over already? Where the majority still feel that it is, but it's come down. It was about 3-1 just after the FA Cup game. But he made the point brilliantly. We should look back where we were 2 years ago. We could still look at this as a very positive season if you look at it in the context of the fact we're only 5 points off the lead. We've got half a season to go. We have been here and challenging for longer than anyone expected. We're still above Tottenham, and they're giving us a lot of stick because we haven't won the league in 20 years. It's just ridiculous. But I think the solution to our goal scoring problem is we have to find our confidence again. We are maybe taking lots of shots, but they lack conviction. Kai Havertz won too many. It reminds you just how young this team is, doesn't it? That I think we're playing with a certain amount of fatigue at the moment, which I think is mental fatigue. I think a lot is being asked of Saka, of Declan Rice, of Saliba, Odegaard, players who don't have years of experience to teach them what a player like Ian Wright knows, which is that your job is to take shots, whether they go in or not. You keep taking shots until they do. And I think we're a little bit short of that. There was a beautiful moment in the FA Cup game for me when Ben White just hit the ball. And I so wish that more of our players would just hit the ball. But there isn't that player in the box that would pick up and pounce on anything. Eddie Nketiah isn't quite good enough. So if you took Jesus off in a game like that and put on an Ivan Toney, not that I rate him, but you know what I mean, like a fox in the box that we've always been looking for at Arsenal, then I definitely think that would add something to our game. So Eddie one way, anyone else in. I'm baffled that we didn't get Marcus Leonardo. It's exactly the kind of unknown entity that would really mix it up in the Premier League right now, I think. This break in Dubai, they now have 2 weeks. And although I'm gutted we didn't equalise and that Liverpool went on to win the game 2-0, there was a point where I am sure we all was watching the game thinking, please don't be a replay. Let them have 2 weeks off. Let us all have 2 weeks off. In those 2 weeks to reflect on where we've come. But we're technically not out of the running for the Premier League, so we shouldn't be despondent until we are. And we have a last 16 tie against Porto. Eminently winnable tie. We could get through to the quarterfinals, and who knows? I'm confident that when they come back from the break, if we can get a good start with a win against Crystal Palace, by the time we play Liverpool, that could be a massive game. And if we win that, everybody will be talking about us as challengers again. For now, we're still in the race. We've lost a little bit of ground, and we've certainly lost our killer instinct. Can we bring in someone to... Can we bring that killer instinct into the club now? Not likely. We have to find it again. We had it last season, and like Arteta said, we're asking the players to do that which they've done before. We know they can do it. They've done it before. It seems to me like it's too easy for us all to just lose faith because they're not achieving what we want them to. They've been consistently excellent. And the one thing that's true about football is that form is temporary and class is permanent. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think about the current situation, what you think the solution is, who you think we should bring in, if you think we should bring someone in, how you feel about the outpouring of anger and the faint murmurings that are becoming shouts of Arteta out and he's not good enough. Let me know in the comments. Until I see you again, be lucky and lots of love.